Now let's see how can we find the value of a function. In order to evaluate function, first of all, we need to understand the function notation, which is written as this. If f of x equals x squared, that's how we define the function f of x. Okay, that's equals x squared. And then we want to evaluate function, we need to write as f of 1. Okay, so this is called a function notation. What the f of 1 means, that means evaluate function f of x1, x equals 1, or evaluate function f of x at 1. Okay, so in other words, you need to plug in the value of x by 1, or whatever enclosed in this parenthesis. All right, so f of 1 means we need to replace x by 1, right? That's the same as 1 squared, which is 1. And similarly, we can evaluate f of 3, okay, which is replace x by 3, 3 squared, which is equals 9. All right, that's how we evaluate function. So we can consider function as a machine, okay, input-output machine, where x is the input, okay, and then we plug in x in to the function, and then we generate an output. The output is f of x, or is the same, we call it y. Okay, so f of x, it is the same as variable y. It's just different name. Okay, if y is a function, we can use f of x to represent, and f of x is the same as the variable y. We call the output variable. X is the input variable. So now let's look at an example. If we define f of x equals 2x squared minus 3x, and how we evaluate the following a, b, c, d, e, f, g. So let's try a first. Okay, we want to evaluate f of 3. Okay, this is a function notation, right? That means evaluate function f of x when x equals 3. So let's plug it in. That's 2x squared, right? It's supposed to be x here. I replace x by blank parenthesis minus 3x. So what you need to put in the parenthesis, that's the value of input variable, which is 3 in this case. Okay, and then simplify. That's 2 times 3 squared, that's 9, right? Minus 3 times 3, which is 9. So that's 18 minus 9, which is equals 9. I hope that makes sense to you. Okay, that's how to evaluate function. And then let's try the b. b, we want to find the value f of x plus f of 3. Okay, f of x, here it doesn't give any specific value of x, so that's just the function definition, which is given by the problem, right? 2x squared minus 3x. That's how we define f of x plus f of 3. f of 3, earlier we already got the evaluation. We know that's equals 9. Okay, so f of x plus f of 3, we got a trinomial, and we cannot further simplify. Okay, and then c, we want to evaluate 3 times f of x. Okay, this represents 3 multiplied by f of x. So that's 3 times f of x, again, by the definition, that's 2x squared minus 3x. So it's like we multiply f of x by coefficient 3. So we eliminate parentheses, right? 3 multiplied inside. That's given us 6x squared minus 9x. Okay, it's a binomial. D, we want to evaluate f of negative x. So this time we would like to replace x by negative of x. So I do the same thing. 2x squared, okay, I leave x as blank, minus 3x, right? And then replace x by negative x. And then simplify. Negative x squared, negative cancel out, so that's the same as 2x squared. Okay, negative sign eliminate. And then minus negative 3x, minus negative, change the sign, become plus 3x. So f of negative x, we evaluate as 2x squared plus 3x. And then e is negative of f of x. This is the same as negative 1 multiplied by f of x. Okay, by definition, f of x equals 2x squared minus 3x. So now negative 1 need to distribute it in, right? That equals minus 2x squared plus 3x, right? Minus 1 times minus 3x, that's positive 3x. So that's e. F, we want to evaluate f of 3x. So this time we replace x by 3x. So 2x squared minus 3x, right? I do the same thing, replace x by 3x, replace x by 3x, and then simplify. That's 2 times 3x whole thing squared. Remember, 3 need to be squared and x need to be squared, right? That's 9x squared. Okay, 2 times 9x squared, and then minus 3 times 3x, that's 9x. So finally simplify as 18x squared minus 9x. Here the common error, students often forget 3 also need to be squared. Okay, so that's 9x squared times 2, so 18x squared. So this term easy make mistakes. And the last one, we evaluate g, which is f of x plus 3. So this time we replace x by x plus 3. So 2x squared minus 3x, right? I just leave the x by blank and then plug in this blanks by x plus 3. And then simplify. X plus 3 raised to the second power, that's a trinomial, right? Perfect square trinomial. That's x squared plus 6x plus 9. And then minus 3x, right? Minus 3 times x, that's a minus 3x. Minus 3 times positive 3, that's a minus 9. And then 2 distribute in. That's 2x squared plus 12x plus 18 minus 3x minus 9. And then we combine like terms, right? 2x squared. And then 12x minus 3x, sorry, that's plus 9x. And then constant term combine, 18 minus 9, that's plus 9. So we can check with the answer. Yeah, that's the same, right? And you can also use graphic calculator to evaluate function when x is a known constant. Okay, if x is a polynomial, and then you cannot use graphic calculator to evaluate function. But if x is a constant, and then we can use graphic calculator evaluate. So how to do it? First, you need to define function. Okay, in your graphic calculator, use y equals button. Okay, and the next step, you need to find a key called a var, which is represent the variable, and then switch to y variable. Okay, and then choose the default, which is the first one, function, and then put a value of x in. Okay, I don't have the graphic calculator emulator on my iPad, so I cannot, show you, but I find a YouTube video, so let's look at it, okay? It's not the same problem, but it shows you how to evaluate function, use graphic calculator. So just a second.
Evaluate a function using our TI-83 or 84 calculator. Now, when I say evaluate the function, we basically have some sort of function like this, and we want to see what it equals when I use some different inputs. So what I'm going to use in this example is basically an input of 3, a 1/2, and 2.73. So I want to find out, what does this equal if I use that for x. Now the way we're going to do this in our calculator is that we're actually going to store this function into the calculator and feed it the inputs one at a time. Now this will ensure that I don't necessarily have to type in the function over and over again, so even if I had more of these I could still do them fairly easily. Alright, so let's go ahead and grab our calculators and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So the first thing I need to do is get this function stored into the calculator, and I can do that under my y equals screen. So press your y equals button and let's enter in that function. So 20.18x squared minus 33.43x plus 45.77. There we go. So that basically just stores it into the calculator. Go ahead and press second quit to return to your home screen. Now that it's stored in there all safe and sound, we want to start feeding it these inputs one at a time. So to have it work with this function that we stored in there, I'm going to go to my variables menu. So VARS is where I want to go. Press that button. And we stored that function as y1, so I want to go to my y variables. If I press my right arrow button over, I can get to my y variables. And I want to select the first option here, function. Now this will basically give me access to all of my functions that I can store in there, y1, y2, all the way up to I think y9. Right now I only have something stored into y1, so it's selected. Let's press enter. Now that puts it on the screen. Now to actually have it evaluated at an input of 3, I'm going to use my parentheses, 3, close parentheses. So that's telling the calculator to feed the input of 3 into that function I have stored into y1. Alright, let's press enter and see what it gives us. See, that didn't take too long at all, did it? So 127.1 is what it evaluates to. Alright? Now you can see that if I want to do this for 1/2, there's very little work I have to do. It already has the function stored in there. So I'm just going to go to my variables button, select my y variables. Option 1 is function. Select my y1. And this time inside my parentheses, I'll put 1 divided by 2 to take care of that 1/2. Okay, press enter, and this one is 34.1. Alright, so that's the right idea. Let's do this one more time. Variables, arrow over to your y variables, and number 1 for functions. And since it's stored into y1, press y1. This time feed it 2.73, and let's see what we get. Let's see, 104.9-ish. There we go. So you can do this with a lot of other functions as well, and it's a handy way to keep them all.
Alright, so that video basically show you how to use your graphic calculator to evaluate function, right? And there are other ways you can use graphic calculator to evaluate the function, which is first you have to store the function, use y equals, okay, like that. And then you can use trace function, okay, to evaluate function and then put a value of x, or second trace function, called a calculate function. So there are many other ways you can do the same, okay, but this time, the book used calling the variables, y variables, to evaluate function. Let's just stick with the book, okay, for now.